All right, good morning, everyone. It is my grandpa and I's 6th day on our Southwest/Colorado road trip, and tell the people where we're going today.
We're going to Rocky Mountain National Park.
And where are we stopping first?
Buc-ee's.
Yep, we got to get some snacks and food for the day, since I'm sure we're not going to have too many options up there in the park, so.
I doubt it, so.
You ready to go inside?
Yeah, let's go.
My grandpa and I loved Buc-ee's so much the previous day, we just had to come back here the first thing the next morning before we headed up into Rocky Mountain National Park. My grandpa and I quickly made our way over to where they sell breakfast burritos, and my grandpa and I both got a breakfast burrito, and I also got a brisket taco for myself later in the day. It was pretty bittersweet saying goodbye to Buc-ee's for the last time here on this trip, as there's no Buc-ee's near California, so we definitely took in as much time as we could here before we headed up into Rocky Mountain National Park. Luckily, there is a Buc-ee's opening up in Arizona in 2025, so that one will be just a bit closer to home to California where we live, so maybe we'll make a special trip out there to go see Buc-ee's in Arizona sometime soon. After leaving Buc-ee's, we continued on Interstate 25 for a few miles until we got to the city of Loveland, where we got off on US Route 34, which we followed all the way through the city of Loveland until we got to the base of the Rocky Mountains there near Big Thompson Canyon. It took us roughly 15 minutes to drive through the city of Loveland there along US 34, and then we even passed by Lake Loveland there, which is a reservoir in the city of Loveland. Big Thompson Canyon is one of the most scenic drives here in Colorado, and it's also one of the most spectacular canyons found here in the Rocky Mountains. It took us roughly 1 hour to drive from Loveland to Estes Park, as we mostly passed through Big Thompson Canyon as we ascended the Rocky Mountains. Estes Park basically serves as the gateway to Rocky Mountain National Park. Before heading into Rocky Mountain National Park, my grandpa and I spotted these elk here near McDonald's, and we just had to get out and check them out for ourselves from a safe distance, as they're pretty popular here in Estes Park, and they're just known to walk into the streets here where everyone can see them. We just took our time there to soak in the views of the elk before we made our way up into Rocky Mountain National Park, hoping that we would see more in the park, but unfortunately we didn't, so we just really were happy to see these elk here in Estes Park. And we spent about a good 5 minutes here just taking in the views and just watching them do their thing. After leaving Estes Park, it was only about a 5 to 10 minute drive up US 34 as we headed into the Fall River entrance to Rocky Mountain National Park. There are two entrances to Rocky Mountain National Park on the east side along US routes 34 and 36 respectively. Unfortunately, they were doing some construction here near the Fall River entrance, and we weren't able to get a picture or do a video to welcome you guys to Rocky Mountain National Park. So I'm just going to welcome you guys to beautiful Rocky Mountain National Park here in Colorado. It took us about 5 to 10 minutes to enter the park there, and luckily we didn't need a reservation because we got there before 9 a.m., and that is the key to getting into Rocky Mountain National Park without a reservation. US Route 34 is the main east to west highway that goes through Rocky Mountain National Park, and it is known as Trail Ridge Road. It wasn't too long before we started climbing up in elevation here until we got to our first overlook here along Trail Ridge Road along US Route 34. This particular overlook here overlooks Horseshoe Park as well as a few 13ers here on the east side of Rocky Mountain National Park. The meadow down below us is also one of the most popular grazing areas for wildlife on the east side of the park as well.
So my grandpa and I are here in Rocky Mountain National Park for the first time in more than 10 years, and our first time here during the fall, actually. So does it feel good to be back?
Yeah, it's we come in the east entrance this time instead of the other entrance, so it'll be different going the other way.
Yeah, so the previous two times that we've been in Rocky Mountain National Park, we've always come in from the Grand Lake entrance on the west side, but we came in from the Fall River entrance on the east side this time. So got some pretty awesome views here, but I feel like they're going to get only better as we keep going up in elevation.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, you ready to continue our journey up Trail Ridge Road?
Yeah, let's go.
After our first scenic pullout, we pulled up to the Deer Ridge Junction here at just under 9,000 feet above sea level, and this officially marks the eastern end of Trail Ridge Road and is also the western terminus of US Route 36 as it splits off from US 34 here as well. We then drove a few miles up Trail Ridge Road here to our next scenic pull-off here, which offered even better views as we were climbing up higher in elevation. At this particular elevation, we are in the montane zone, which sits below 9,000 feet here in Rocky Mountain National Park. Ponderosa pines are pretty common in this life zone, as well as junipers, Douglas fir, and lodgepole pine. And this zone is home to the largest diversity of both plant and animal life here in Rocky Mountain National Park. Abundant grasses, wildflowers, and berry-producing shrubs in this ecosystem provide food for mammals and birds. At this particular overlook, you get really great views looking out towards the east side of the park, and if you look off in the distance, you can even see Long's Peak, which is both the northernmost 14er in Colorado and is also the only 14er in Rocky Mountain National Park as well.
Pretty awesome views here as we keep going up in elevation, huh? Especially of Long's Peak right behind you there, which is the highest point in the park and the northernmost 14er in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado.
Yeah, this great view right here. There's about, I don't know, it looks like 6 or 7 mountains out here. They're marked on this plaque over here. So they're all 114er and the rest all 13ers and 12s, I guess.
All right, you ready to continue on?
Yeah, let's continue.
They have plenty of information plaques here talking about what you can see from this viewpoint, as well as the different life zones found here in Rocky Mountain National Park as well. Of course, if you look back in the opposite direction of where we just came from, you get really great views of some 13ers as well. And the lighting conditions were much better facing this direction versus facing to the east, unfortunately, because we were here pretty early in the morning. As my grandpa and I continued farther up Trail Ridge Road, we began to enter the sub-alpine zone here in Rocky Mountain National Park, which stretches from 9,000 to 11,500 feet in elevation. Here at this elevation, the weather becomes a lot more harsh and fewer plants and animals can survive at these higher elevations. It's also at this point where the road is closed in the wintertime between here and the Colorado River Overlook due to the amount of snowfall and harsh weather conditions found here at this altitude. Our next stop along Trail Ridge Road was at the Rainbow Curve Overlook at 10,829 feet above sea level. It is at this point that you are more than 2 miles above sea level, and exposed trees are blasted by wind, ice, and grit into gnarled forms and flag shapes where branches survive only on the downwind side. Below us lies Hidden Valley, which is isolated from Horseshoe Park by a high ridge. The views get even better the higher up in elevation we go here along Trail Ridge Road, and the views here are absolutely spectacular.
Looking out towards the east here, you can see the road where we came up. We're just under 11,000 feet right here at the scenic overlook. And you can see where we came in, that entrance right over there. Then right over there is Fall River Road. Man, this national park is pretty awesome in terms of views and just experience, huh?
Yeah, it really is. It's just, it's weird. It's just mountains and valleys. You know, you got all these mountains out here all the way around, and then this deep valley right in between it. And there's actually the roads down there where we came up.
Starting to feel lightheaded at this altitude. We're just about 11,000 feet.
Yeah, a little bit, but I'm fine.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll just continue up into the Alpine Tundra, I guess.
Yeah, we're getting close, I guess.
Yeah, we're right near the tree line where we're standing right here, so.
Yeah.
After leaving the Rainbow Curve Overlook, we continued to gain elevation until we came close to the Alpine Tundra Zone up here on Trail Ridge Road here in Rocky Mountain National Park, and I was amazed to still see some patches of snow here in early October. We officially passed a sign that let us know we are entering the Alpine Tundra, which is one of the harshest and fragile ecosystems found anywhere in the world. It is very important that you stay on the trails if you're walking up here in the Alpine Tundra, because if you step on any of the plants, it can take generations for the plants to return to their natural state. Life up here is very harsh, and the Alpine Tundra has a very short growing season and typically lasts anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks depending on the season. It is not uncommon for wind speeds to exceed 150 miles per hour, and ultraviolet radiation up here is twice that of what it is at sea level, and sunlight is 25% more intense at this altitude. Trail Ridge Road spends several miles up here in the Alpine Tundra and reaches a maximum elevation of 12,183 feet, which makes it the highest continuous paved road in North America. Trail Ridge Road began construction in 1926 and officially opened to traffic in 1932. In 1996, Trail Ridge Road was designated as an All-American Road, one of the most scenic and unique national scenic byways in the country, and Trail Ridge Road was also designated as a Colorado State Scenic Byway as well. For every 1,000 feet in elevation gained, the temperature drops 3 to 5 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's like you drive 600 miles north. Driving up here in the Alpine Tundra is what life is like above the Arctic Circle here in the world. After driving up here in the Alpine Tundra on Trail Ridge Road, we made our way back over to Forest Canyon Overlook. There are multiple signs here letting you know to please stay on the trail and leave no trace, as the Alpine Tundra here is very fragile and just stepping and walking on it can take generations for it to return to its natural state. There are plenty of information plaques here that talk about the Alpine Tundra and what life is like up here at this extreme altitude, and let me just say it was very cold and windy when my grandpa and I were up here. I believe it was 42 degrees, but then you had the wind chill factor which brought it back down to about 32 degrees. So if you come here in the fall like we did, be sure to dress warm. The Forest Canyon Overlook is your first overlook here in the Alpine Tundra if you're coming from the east side of the park, and it sits 11,716 feet above sea level. Here at the Forest Canyon Overlook, the erosive forces of glacial ice is undeniable. Some of the very few glaciers found in Colorado can be found from looking at this overlook out in the distance, and it's not hard to see how glaciers carve out this amazing landscape in this area of Rocky Mountain National Park. Looking out towards the east, you can see the Alpine Tundra dominating the landscape here, and you can see how Trail Ridge Road just meanders across the Alpine Tundra there in the distance before reaching its apex there at 12,183 feet above sea level. And then of course, if you look out in the far distance, you get really amazing views of the Never Summer Mountains as well as the Gore Range. This is truly one of the most spectacular overlooks here in Rocky Mountain National Park, and I'm just glad that we were here on a crystal clear day and we didn't have any obstruction to our views. And then looking out towards the east, you get one good view of Long's Peak, which like I said is the tallest mountain in Rocky Mountain National Park at over 14,000 feet.
Man, the views don't get much better than this, do they?
No, they just keep getting better and better the higher we go.
Yep, we're pretty high right now, aren't we?
Yeah, we're, what, over 11,000 feet, I guess.
About 11,716, the sign said at this overlook.
Yeah, it's pretty, we're getting there. We're almost up to the top there, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a valley right here that you see, I guess, that you look at down through here was probably formed by glaciers, more than likely. There are a few glaciers up here. I think those are glaciers over there, aren't they?
Yeah, they're one of the few remaining glaciers in Colorado. There's not many glaciers in Colorado, surprisingly, despite all of the 14ers in this state, but
yeah.
The few that are here in Colorado are here in Rocky Mountain National Park.
Yeah, looks like there's a couple there, and up there there's another one. So.
But yeah, just really awesome views, huh?
Yeah, really. It's gorgeous here.
How's the weather?
Well, the weather's going to be nice here in a little bit. We got a little bit of cloud cover, but
the sun just came out and it's a lot warmer.
Out. Yeah, it's in the 40s right now, but the wind we have some wind too, so that brings it down a little bit.
Yep.
But it's still really nice.
These views right here as we were traveling along Trail Ridge Road up here in the Alpine Tundra as we were looking out to the north were just absolutely amazing right here. Our next stop along Trail Ridge Road was at the Rock Cut, which is 12,110 feet above sea level and is very close to the high point of Trail Ridge Road. It should be noted that at this elevation you should stay hydrated, especially in the summertime, as the high altitude can dehydrate you, and it's also very important to walk at a pace that's comfortable for you, especially if you're not used to the altitude, as lightheadedness and dizziness could be pretty common side effects of altitude sickness. Our next stop along Trail Ridge Road is the Lava Cliffs, which is at 12,080 feet above sea level. Roughly 28 to 26 million years ago, volcanoes erupted repeatedly in the area of today's Never Summer Mountains, roughly 8 miles to the west. and they left deposits of ash and other volcanic material here on the landscape. Glacial ice later carved and exposed the remnants of this volcanic activity that we can see here at the lava cliffs. I'm sure volcanoes are probably not the first thing that you think of when you think of the Rocky Mountains, but it's just really cool to learn about these geologic oddities, especially in a place like this right here in Colorado, where volcanic activity is probably not the first thing on people's minds. And if you look out to the east here where the lava cliffs are, you can look out to where the Old Fall River Road is, which I hear is an amazing drive here in Rocky Mountain National Park. I personally have not done it, but I would absolutely love to do the Fall River Road at some point in the future.
All right, so what are your opinions there on the lava cliffs? The only reason I'm doing this in the car is because it's way too windy to record this outside. Holy crap, my grandpa lost his hat.
I know, my hat took off so fast I didn't even know where it went. Wow.
They say the winds can get over 100 miles per hour up here.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they can. Yeah. The lava cliff's pretty interesting little area right there, you know.
And then you got the views looking back towards the Old Fall River Road as well, to the east.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I'd love to drive that road sometime in the future, because, you know, we've always come on Trail Ridge Road every time we come here, but I hear the Old Fall River Road is pretty interesting. If you guys have actually driven that, let me know down in the comments and let me know how it is. I'd love to read about it.
Our second to last stop here in the Alpine Tundra was at the Gore Range Overlook here, where you get amazing views of the Gore Range to the east and the Never Summer Mountains to the west. This is hands down my favorite overlook here in Rocky Mountain National Park because you just get amazing unobstructed views for as far as the eye can see. Rocky Mountain National Park will always be one of my favorite national parks in the United States for views like this. I will never get tired of coming here and driving Trail Ridge Road just to get these amazing views, and it really just makes me appreciate the fact that I'm here with my grandpa because we have not been to Rocky Mountain National Park since 2014 when we were on our big Midwest trip back then. Another nice thing about our visit to Rocky Mountain National Park here in October 2024 was the fact that it wasn't during the peak summer season when it was really busy, because this is also one of the busiest national parks in the US, and for good reason. The views of the Never Summer Mountains here at the Gore Range Overlook are an incredible sight to see, and it's just really awesome how clear of a day it was when we were here in Rocky Mountain National Park.
So this is easily my favorite view here along Trail Ridge Road because you get views of the mountains to the west and east from here. You just really get all the open views like at this viewpoint right here.
Yeah, this is a fantastic view right here. If you look straight out over here, all those peaks out there are all 12ers.
Yep. Well, you ready to start heading down Trail Ridge Road on the west side and cross the Continental Divide?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go check it out.
Don't you find it funny how the Continental Divide is not on the highest point of the road?
Yeah, that is very strange. Usually it is, right? It's at the highest elevation.
Not necessarily. It's just where the watershed divides between the Pacific and Atlantic.
Okay.
It's not always on the highest point when this is one of the cases where it isn't.
Okay.
All right, let's hit the road.
All right.
After leaving the Gore Range Overlook, my grandpa and I began to descend down the Alpine Tundra here as we made our way over to the Alpine Visitor Center, which sits at 11,796 feet above sea level and is easily my favorite visitor center here in Rocky Mountain National Park. My grandpa and I quickly made our way over to the entrance, and then we went inside the visitor center there, and it was just really nice to actually be inside of a building and away from the wind because it was a very beautiful day there, but it was also very windy, so it was just nice to be out of the elements for a few minutes. The Alpine Visitor Center here has a ton of information about the Alpine Tundra and just a whole bunch of facts just about Rocky Mountain National Park itself and some of the wildlife and indigenous populations that used to inhabit this area as well. The Alpine Visitor Center is subject to extreme winds, especially during the winter. Heavy logs permanently attached to the roof support the structure and catch snow, which helps prevent shingles from being blown away in the winds. I can't imagine what life is like up here at this altitude during the winter time, so kudos to the people who monitor the weather up here at this altitude. My grandpa and I officially got our stamp book stamped here in Rocky Mountain National Park.
Go.
There you go, Rocky Mountain National Park. There's your stamp and your cancellation.
Yeah.
How's it feel?
Good. Another park.
They have a lot of great information here about the weather up here in the Alpine Tundra, and you definitely don't want to be outside during a thunderstorm here because your risk of being struck by lightning is very high up here in the Alpine Tundra. One thing I really like is that they have a weather station up here where you could just see like all of the different cool facts about like the pressure and everything like that that's going on up here. It's a really nice touch, and I actually really appreciate the effort that they put into it right there. After spending some time there at the visitor center, my grandpa and I made our way over to the gift shop where we just got some souvenirs to take back home with us to California from Rocky Mountain National Park.
All right, so what did you think of the Alpine Visitor Center here in Rocky Mountain National Park?
It's nice. It's not real big, but there's a lot of good information in there about the
Alpine
whole
Tundra,
area.
yeah.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's really nice. It's worth a visit.
After spending a good 30 minutes there at the Alpine Visitor Center, we continued our journey down Trail Ridge Road and eventually made our way back below the timberline here at 11,500 feet as we began to descend down towards the Continental Divide, which interestingly is not on the highest point of Trail Ridge Road, but rather a lot lower in elevation that you might expect. The Continental Divide here along Trail Ridge Road is at Milner Pass, which sits 10,758 feet above sea level. It is at this point where water will eventually drain into the Greater Colorado River watershed and eventually reach the Pacific Ocean. Milner Pass was named for T.J. Milner, an ambitious railroad promoter who surveyed a rail route from Fort Collins west across the Continental Divide. Like many surveyed routes of the 1880s, the railroad line was never built. Our final scenic overlook here along Trail Ridge Road was at the Far View Curve here at 10,120 feet above sea level. It's at this point that we are back in the subalpine zone, and this overlook here basically looks at the headwaters of the Colorado River, which flows over 1,400 miles from here to the Gulf of California or Sea of Cortez. The Colorado River is one of the most important rivers in the American West, and it's really cool to see that it has its headwaters here in the west side of Rocky Mountain National Park. Of course, you get amazing views of the Never Summer Mountains from this overlook as well, and it's crazy how much taller they are here from this overlook compared to where we were basically looking at them at the same elevations up there at the Gore Range overlook. And looking out towards this valley right here, you could see where the Colorado River begins to meander its way down and eventually reach the Pacific Ocean over 1,400 miles later. After leaving the Far View Curve overlook, we eventually kept lowering in elevation until we eventually made our way back towards the west entrance of Rocky Mountain National Park. As our time in Rocky Mountain National Park was coming to an end, we were a little bit sad, but we were very happy of the experiences that we got to share here in this beautiful park. As we approached the Grand Lake entrance to Rocky Mountain National Park, the scars left behind by the East Troublesome Fire were beginning to show their mark on the landscape. The East Troublesome Fire is the second largest wildfire in Colorado history and burned 193,812 acres and burned as much as 100,000 acres in a 24-hour period. It is by far the most destructive fire in Colorado's history. The fire started on October 14, 2020 and burned for 48 days and was fully extinguished on November 30th of 2020.
All right, so my grandpa and I just got done visiting Rocky Mountain National Park for the first time in 10 years. So what did you think?
Yeah, it's still a beautiful park. It's a big park. A lot of mountains, beautiful mountains and valleys, and it was really nice. I really enjoyed it.
So just a heads up, if you go there during the fall, be prepared for wind and bring extra warm clothes because it was pretty windy when we were there.
Yeah, it was, especially up on the ridge lines. If you get up there and once you get down in the valley, it's nice, but it's not up on the top.
The only casualty was my grandpa's hat.
Yeah. So I got out of the car and the wind caught it and it took off, and I don't know where it went. If anybody finds a Viper hat, send it to me.
After leaving Rocky Mountain National Park, my grandpa and I made our way over towards the western slope and eventually ended up in Grand Junction. We followed most of US 40 across the northern half of Colorado, and we saw some amazing scenery along the western slope here that I've never seen before, and neither had my grandpa. One amazing drive that we did between Rocky Mountain National Park and Grand Junction was the drive over Rabbit Ears Pass near the town of Steamboat Springs. Rabbit Ears Pass is famous for having a rock formation that's known as the Rabbit Ears, which gives the pass its name on the east side of the pass. I thought it was very cool, and then of course the fall colors over Rabbit Ears Pass was just icing on the cake. It was really nice passing through the resort community of Steamboat Springs too, as it was one of the largest ski towns that I had yet to visit in Colorado during my many trips to this state over the years. The scenery after we left Steamboat Springs got pretty boring pretty fast, so we didn't really film anything at all between Steamboat Springs and Grand Junction, which is where we spent night 6 of our Colorado and Southwest road trip. And with all that said, folks, I really hope you all enjoyed watching this video here as my grandpa and I explored Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you all have an amazing day, and take care everyone. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time.